Hi, my name is Agapi Stasinopoulos, and I am so happy and thrilled to be bringing to all of you at Mind Valley this quest of connecting and creating with God and Spirit as your guide. Our inner guidance is like a wireless network. It's invisible, but it's available everywhere where we are. To tap into your inner knowing, you just need to enter the password. And the password is prayer. Prayer is our invisible support system, and it reminds us that we are never, never alone. This quest is about learning how to partner with your spirit, the God within, and actually become a co-creator with that life force. It will help you incorporate your spiritual self with your physical reality so that everything you do will be connected to God through the unshakable bond of prayer. Now, we know that God can be a loaded word. It means something different to different people. It means so many things to so many people, and it means nothing to a lot of people. Let me tell you what I mean when I say God. I never think of God as a being. I think of God as a state of being. To enter that state, we have to dare to go beyond our limited sense of ourselves, our minds, our emotions, and our finite perspective. When I say God, I'm referring to a transcendent power beyond what words can possibly describe. If you connect to that spiritual, cosmic, larger than life presence in whatever way resonates with you, your life will be transformed. Whatever word you want to use, whether it is God, the light, spirit, the higher self, divine intelligence, the one, the I am, universal love, a higher power, or anything else, please use it. Whatever connects you to that power is your entryway. It doesn't matter what you call it, as long as when you call it, you remember that you are calling upon a power that lives in every cell of your body and in your own breath. And how do we get to that presence? Prayer. Prayer is the bridge that we use to connect to that power. I don't know about you, but if I spend 1 second considering the vastness of the universe, I feel reverence, gratitude, safety, protection, and ultimately a sense of awe and joy. I don't presume to know how, but I have a profound feeling that the miraculous energy that created the universe is that which created me. When we pray, we're not praying to someone, but to something inside of us, a deeply wiser, higher, and more intelligent part of ourselves that is connected to the whole and is always here. We pray to the awakened part of us that is the God within us. All we are asked to do is gently turn towards it and listen. In prayer, you begin moving beyond the confines of the self that is preoccupied with so many things. Whoever you think you are, my friends, you're not. Because our thinking is finite. We cannot conceive with our minds the soul of who we are, which is infinite and invisible. The power in the process of prayer is that you can go beyond your thoughts and your restricted mind, and you start to touch upon the unseen reality of who you really are. It is as if the curtain is slowly being lifted, and there you are. And from that place you can ask, you can listen, and you can commune. It's like, the story of the monk who kept continuously asking God, what can I do to serve you? What can I do to serve you more? And one day, his inner voice said, shut up and let me love you. So when you are in that presence, you might realize that you are indeed very loved and you need nothing. The loving presence in you knows your yearnings, your longings, your wants, and they are being answered. As Rumi said, the wonderful Sufi poet, you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. We have low levels of consciousness and higher levels of consciousness. It doesn't mean that the lower levels of consciousness are bad. They're just a lower vibration. And wouldn't you rather live in a higher, elevated state of consciousness? It would be like you're living in a mansion. And in the mansion, there is the basement where it's dark, and the first floor and the second floor, and there is a little more light there. They're not bad, but if you go into the higher floors or on the rooftop, you can get a greater view, a greater vista, filled with light. In the same way, as we elevate our consciousness, we can choose to live in a higher state of being, where you are calmer, you're more centered, you have greater clarity, greater focus, you have joy, you have the ability to see solutions, you are of greater service, you're kinder, you're more compassionate, you are more loving to yourself, more accepting, and basically you have a greater flow in your life. That to me is the spiritual essence that we can bring to this level. How we can move from the lower levels of consciousness to the higher levels is prayer. Prayer is like your elevator to go to the higher floors of your mansion. When you are in the basement, you get in the elevator, you push the button, and you say, I want to go to the 6th floor, or the 9th floor, or the 7th floor. I want to see clearly, to be in more light. The whole thing is very practical as well as it is mystical. You move out of the debris of your life to the nectar of your life. It is possible. It just takes willingness to know that at every moment in your life, you have a choice to get in the elevator by coming into prayer to lift yourself to the other floors of your consciousness. As you go through this quest with me, you'll begin to trust in the Spirit. You will learn to listen to it, choose it, and merge your human and spiritual self and walk hand in hand with your spirit. So, how did I get here? Let me tell you just a little bit about myself. I was brought up in Athens, Greece, the sun-kissed land of the magical Aegean, where life is celebrated every day. My mother, Ellie, was my first spiritual teacher, and she infused us, me and my sister, with a complete trust of life. She believed in something larger than herself that was her guiding light. She always used to say to me and my sister, life is for you. Trust your life force. And she demonstrated that every day in the midst of all her adversities. As a young girl in Athens, I remember seeing my mother sitting in our living room, drinking her tea, eating her favorite biscuits in contemplation. It looked like she was doing nothing, but over time I realized this was her time of spiritual communion. In quiet reflection, she seemed to be drawing upon something deep within herself. She was listening for guidance and direction, and she orchestrated various aspects of our lives. This was her form of prayer. She never really went to church. Yet she prayed all the time. In our family, other than weddings, funerals, and Greek Easter, we never really went to church. So at a very early age, I realized that prayer had nothing to do with going to a house of worship, a building dedicated to God. Our own home was our church. And sitting in silence and contemplation, making yourself a cup of tea, taking a walk in the park, appreciating nature, these all could be your form of prayer. I realized that prayer was not really about kneeling down and asking God for help. It had everything to do with coming into heart and mind and connecting with something that is larger than your personal life. In this quest, I encourage you to allow yourself to discover your own form of prayer. Through prayer, my mother always trusted that help would come her way, and it did. She made miracles happen for me and my sister, taking us from Athens to London, finding us the best schools and teachers, and making a home for us in a foreign country. Support showed up in countless of ways in her life, and therefore in ours. She had an unshakable confidence that she was not alone in the world. She gave me the name Agape, which in Greek means unconditional love. And that, my friend, set the ground for my life's work. Because when we learn to love ourselves, others, and our life unconditionally, we transcend the conditions and we become liberated. The unconditionality of love, my friends, is the most liberating thing you can experience. It is the foundation of spirituality. It is exactly what we are going to learn in this quest. In London, I studied acting and graduated from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts and moved to Los Angeles, where I was hired to play a leading role in a movie. But a few months after being there, the movie fell through, and I had a choice to return to London or stay in LA. I made the major decision in my life to stay in LA and to see what was in store for me. And then I embarked on a spiritual quest. I read endless spiritual books, did hours of yoga, because I was yearning to awaken to something in me that was more than just a Greek young girl seeking an acting career. I wanted to know deep down who I was. How did I fit in this world? What was my purpose? And that's when I had a spiritual awakening. I was 23 years old, and I was reading the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. I remember I was reading about how the yogis living in the Himalayas leave their bodies, travel into other realms, and return back to their bodies for hundreds of years, essentially transcending their physical body. I remember falling asleep while I was reading that in the book. And in the morning, I was awakened early, like about 5:30 in the morning, and the light was coming in through the window of my hotel room, and an inner light that shook me awake. I remember falling on my knees, crying, and I felt this energy. I felt this awakening of my soul when I just saw and knew that I was a soul connected to the whole, that I was more than my body, more than my mind and my emotions, that I was part of the creation of what we call God. So I started to pray and asked for a spiritual teacher to guide me through this path that I had just awakened. And I met my spiritual teacher, John Roger, in Los Angeles, who was an enlightened being on our planet. And I started to follow the path of soul awakening and soul transcendence. And one day, as I was meditating on the mountaintop, I was bathed in the light. I felt the light started to embrace me, and as if a veil was lifted from my outer self, and it revealed my inner self. After that experience, after that experience, I remember going home and feeling and saying to myself, I will never be alone again. And my life started to take a very different course. It became all about deeply grounding that experience and finding out more of who I was and integrating little by little my spiritual self into my life. It was not at all, and then she lived happily ever after. No, not at all. It was about taking leaps of faith to keep going, to finding ways to express my gifts, to make my life happen. And the best practice that I found to do that and to keep connecting to my inner guidance was prayer. Through prayer, I was always asking, I was always listening, being very quiet, learning to calm the part of me that was afraid, that had self-doubt, that didn't know. Always returning to that inner guidance that was so solid that I could absolutely and irrevocably tell you that God, whatever you call God, was my partner. What was interesting in my journey is that the world wasn't really giving me what I wanted. I wasn't getting the parts I wanted. I wasn't getting the man I wanted. But underneath it all, what I really, really wanted was agape. I wanted me. And then I got me. And I got to my heart. And everything opened up. Oh, it was so beautiful. I found me. I started to create. I produced a one-woman show called Conversations with the Goddesses, where I acted all the 7 goddesses myself and all the monologues from the theater, from all the plays that I loved. It became extremely successful. I was asked to do a PBS special after that. I was asked to write books about the Greek gods and goddesses. I taught everywhere about the Greek archetypes, and it became such a big part of my life. I was the initiator and the creator of my creativity, and I was then offering it to the world. Later in my life, I decided to write a book, how to find my creativity, how I found my spirituality, and the book was called Unbinding the Heart. A dose of Greek wisdom, generosity, unconditional love. And I told my story to large audiences, and hundreds of people fell in my arms and cried and said, Agape, my heart burst open when you spoke. My heart burst open. Or I let go of this old pain and I realized that that's what we all really want. We want our hearts to burst open. We want to know the Spirit because the Spirit is in us, in our heart. God lives in the human heart. So, cut to many years later, after a few more books, many more talks, I was asked to write the book that would become Speaking with Spirit, 52 Prayers to guide, inspire, and uplift you. I was about to start writing the book. I was so excited when the global pandemic happened, lockdown. And what happened to me at that very difficult time that I know everyone went through, especially because I'm an extrovert and I'm a Greek extrovert, which makes me a triple extrovert. So I was in lockdown, unable to see my friends, even go to the supermarket or to the coffee shop. There were no events. Everything stopped. No more speaking engagements. And I love speaking to people. That was my joy. So I now had to write, which is a much more solitary expression. So I cried and I prayed. I cried and I prayed. And I started to find a deeper place of that spirit. I found that in my solitude, in my silence, in my aloneness, in my upsetness, in my despairing moments, Spirit would come to me and say, "But I'm still here, my beloved. I'm not just when you're out at events speaking. I'm not just when life is all happening around you. I'm here." And my heart cracked open even deeper, and the veils kept lifting. And I was able to really find that core and know it and write about it and convey it to others, and now conveying it to you. This quest is a byproduct of this body of work of myself. One reason that I wrote my books and created this quest is that people often write to me and tell me how they feel disassociated with God and find it difficult to get back to themselves, to find their heart. They are losing the meaning of life. They might be very successful in the work, but there is a deeper longing in them. This longing to connect with something larger than ourselves is always in us, but is often buried. In times of crisis, it rises to the surface. If everything you do in your life is led by that invisible connection, by that invisible force, by your connection to God, to your spirit, to that light, then everything is going to open up for you, and everything is going to have a deeper meaning and make sense to you. And what I ask you is to keep an open heart, an open mind. Release the judgments. This is not a quest that you have to work at it. This is a catch the spirit quest. And you can catch the spirit at any time, at any moment. You can catch it right now as you listen to me, and it can blow your mind away, which is a very good thing. Or it can blow your heart open, which is a marvelous thing. Your willingness to get out of your head is what is going to make this possibility, what is going to make the possibility for you to go deeper and to know your path, to unlock your blueprint, your true self, which is unique to each one of you. My blueprint is unique to me, and yours is yours because it has been in you since the day you were born, in your soul. What I really want you to find through this quest is the way you're going to communicate with your spirit on a daily basis, because often we lose our connection with our higher power. We do not trust it, and we go around in daily life, in our whole life, thinking we're alone, which is such a shame because we are really connected all the time. So we need to learn and return to that connection, which is innate and natural and so embedded in us that is actually in our very own breath. And like our breath, it's so simple, and because it's so simple, we tend to miss it. We think it should be more complicated. We've all had those times where we feel totally alone, where we felt stuck, where we felt disappointed, and we couldn't move past the disappointment. When we felt blocked about something that we wanted, but we didn't know how to get it, like there was something bigger in us than this life that we couldn't get to. We feel this way because the world isn't designed to remind us of who we are. The way the world is shaped is to remind us to be recognized, to produce more, to become more successful, to accomplish more. The world does not give us triggers to our spirituality. There is no sign that says, remember your spiritual nature, remember your soul. No. What it will remind you is to accomplish more, get a bigger house, accumulate more stuff, make more money, and so on and so on. It only reminds you of your physical endeavors. But what I want to remind you through this quest is to bring the spotlight in your spiritual nature first, which then will affect all your physical endeavors. It will spiritualize them. It will energize them, your relationships, your projects, your career. And once you spiritualize everything, everything is going to take meaning. Because, as the famous French philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So, let's talk about this quest for a moment. I have divided this quest into 6 parts: living, creating, becoming, overcoming, loving, and transforming. These represent the different phases that we all go through on the path to connecting with our spiritual nature. In this first part, living, we'll discuss how you can move past the first hurdle, which is belief. You'll get familiar with the concept of prayer and how you can start living in prayer. The next part, creating, is where you will learn how to find your purpose by connecting through spirit. Becoming is where you will learn how to embody this reality and help you ground and integrate the spiritual connection into your everyday life. In overcoming, you will learn to be bigger than your blocks that come your way and how to look at them as diving boards into deeper spirituality. In loving, you learn how to see yourself and others through the eyes of love and to further enhance the richness of your life. Which brings us finally to transforming, which is when everything in your life starts to take the vibrancy of spirit and the light. So, how can you prepare to take this journey with me? Well, first, as I said earlier, I want you to let go of any preconceived thoughts you may have about the words prayer or God. Come with an open mind, prepared to receive a connection with your own soul and spirituality. To pray, you don't have to belong to anything or anyone, but your own spirit. A lot of people don't pray because they say, I don't know who to pray to, or they feel self-conscious. Let go of all that. And I want you to make an intention about the person you will be at the end of the quest. Sit down and think about it. Visualize who you are. Write it down. Are you feeling freer? Are you feeling more joy? Are you being more loving to yourself? Are you feeling a little less worried, more fearless? How would your life feel if you were free? Like you're not missing anything, feeling full within yourself. Sit down and think about it. How would you like to feel that you are not missing out on anything? How would you like to wake up every morning feeling full in the fullness of you? How would you like to feel that when you have difficult and challenging times, difficult and challenging things that come your way, that you are not alone? Wouldn't that be wonderful? To know that on your right shoulder sits the guiding light, and on your left shoulder sits your mighty heart. You're feeling that you can smile because you know you are so connected. How would you like to feel this incredible, solid connection to yourself? And then I want you to download the workbook, which will help you follow along with the quest and will contain all the prayers in the quest. You can also get a journal to write your thoughts, your reflections, your own prayers. And set aside some time each day, which is dedicated to this quest. Maybe about 20 minutes each day, which will be dedicated to this journey of opening up a stronger connection with your spirit. And finally, join the tribe and introduce yourself to the Mind Valley community. While prayer can be an intensely personal thing, you will benefit from having a community of travelers who will support you in your journey and hold you accountable to your goals. They say that this life is a blink in the eye of God, but we go through so much suffering and pain and tormenting ourselves. And we put all these barriers around ourselves. What I wish for you in this quest is that you will release them and you'll be able to see that you can actually live in this life really feeling a sense of freedom and joy and gratitude and reverence. Come aboard this ship with me. Prayer will be our sails. Spirit will be our wind. And we will arrive home to our soul. I welcome you with all my heart. And I'm so looking forward to going through this quest with all of you.